We're back! Hello, you lovely people, and welcome to the News and Views with the award-winning EV Cafe. 30 minutes of what's happening in zero-emission transport, with expert analysis from Sarah, and Paul's here too. Brought to you this week in partnership with PayThrough, transforming EV charging with tailored payment solutions, and beautifully tailored they are too. So, grab a cuppa and plug in to what's happening in clean transport this week, because we've got coming up, Hague and Miliband land transport and energy roles in the new cabinet. London introduce a £15 a day congestion charge for all vehicles, including EVs. More on that soon. An automotive sustainability report shows that CO2 emissions have halved since 1992. A workplace electric vehicle V2G charging trial offers fleets a free charger. And it's go, go, go for clean power as NASCAR unveils its first electric race car. But first, the EV rally last week. We were just talking about how that was. Go to Paul and Sarah in just a minute. But huge congratulations to Lex Autolease, all the teams. It was great to see Europcar, the AA, Webfleet, Drax, Iveco, Stuart Signs, and all the wonderful people. So special thanks to Carl and Richard, Sarah and my camera people who were absolutely outstanding. All the support crews. And most of all, our buddy Colin Boyton, who has been a little bit unwell, but he's gone off on holiday. Speedy recovery, mate. My three words to describe the EV rally were immense, challenging, and done. Sarah?
Energetic, collaborative, and historic.
Ooh, and Pablo, vans.
Which I
do you know what? Three words: diverse, difficult, and defining.
Because people think it's a bit of a jolly, don't they? They think that we just bimble around the countryside and, you do about 3 hours.
Tootle.
You get, a tootle, somebody described it as this morning. Try and describe, if you can, the hardest day that we all had. Paul, what was the hardest day for you?
Well, it was a funny one because we had 2 days back to back that were pretty big, and for vans, of course, with ranges of a realistic kind of, you can push 160 miles on the ED7. You still have some mileage left, but that's what you want. You want a bit of juice left, and so you're charging for an hour and a bit. I mean, these were days that began at you're bouncing out of bed at 6 o'clock, and you're getting back to the hotel just as the restaurant shuts, and you're scrabbling to get a bit of food, and then edit some videos and do all of those kinds of things. But the vehicles mostly, and this was the first rally where the vehicles were at the edge of their abilities, I think. For vans, there was over 300 miles a day on average, and that was challenging. We had big trucks, we had a motorbike, everything was stretched on the longest rally yet. The infrastructure was very feasible, and so, but the probably the Wednesday or the Thursday was probably my favourite day, but the Wednesday was pretty challenging.
Interesting that Amy Carter from DAF, she says Thursday was her hardest day, 10 p.m. finish. Sarah, what about you? What was the tough day for you?
Well, as media crew, I very much see it as my responsibility to kind of make sure everyone's looking good, feeling good, and still delivering their message. And it was really tough on Wednesday and Thursday to get. Well, it was because everyone was exhausted. I didn't get to interview Paul. Although I did see Paul at the very, very end of one of the longest days.
Queen Adelaide.
Yes, thank you for remembering the Environment Agency position. But I think that's it, is keeping everyone's energy up and mood up. But for me, there was incredibly bad weather. There was a lot going on with the mileage and the checkpoints and things happening. And I was sort of watching everything slip. And there was this wonderful moment where collaboration became its true form, where I said to Richard Parker and James Dewhurst from Webfleet, we need to keep an eye on where they all are, because we've got to make a call at some point that they're not going to make it. And we will have to shut the shut the checkpoint. So it's a very sort of moving piece. And what people don't see on the media crew is we get darted about because people change their showcases. So we do as many miles. And so, as you've both articulated beautifully, it's about challenging the infrastructure we have, tick, challenging the vehicles that we have, tick. And the reason I said it's historic is some of those vehicles outperformed their expectations. The prototype EHGV that James Venables was driving with the team at Mercedes outshone itself on its sort of base level intention. So just a really wonderful moment. I will never forget it. Never.
Yeah, we need to send our best wishes to the guy. Amy Carter refers to some accidents on the A303, and there was a young man who had injuries which are life-changing as a result of a motorcycle crash. And that's never far from our minds, Paul, is it? The fragility of life when you're driving that amount of miles. Unfortunately, we all got home, but that young man didn't.
And just to be clear, that, I mean, not that it makes it any better, but it wasn't a member of our team that was injured.
Indeed.
None of our team were involved in that. But as you're travelling 1,500 miles, you do see the impact of these events on not only traffic but people as well, and we must never forget that. That was one real incident that really kind of brings that home. But the other incident for me that brought it home was the 303, the A303. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a van broken down. So vehicles break down, but this van broke down on the 303, and literally thousands of vehicles in either direction were halted for what must have been hours. And it was, this is the sort of thing. So when we're testing these vehicles, we want efficiency. We want these vehicles not to break down. They got to be tested to their limit. And us doing that really kind of brings home for me that the benefit of electric vehicles is that they're very, very unlikely to break down in the same way that, yes, everything can run out of fuel, run out of energy and all those kinds of things, but very much less moving parts to go wrong. But an old diesel van, very, very likely to go wrong with a knackered old diesel engine.
There was an old diesel Volvo on the A30 with the gentleman stood by the side of it, like just guffawing smoke. So yeah, it was so many breakdowns that day. I can't help but think it was partly to do with the weather.
Now, one of the positive things, Sarah, was that all of the teams and all the cars sponsored a QR code, or sported rather a QR code on the back of the vehicles, and we were all raising money for the homeless as part of the Lex Auto Lease sponsorship for Crisis. So, drum roll, please. How much did we raise as the EV Rally?
Well, I have it on good authority from Crisis Direct that we raised over £1,200 in cash alone, just for the running elements, I would add. So we did £5 for 5K for 5 days. And thank you to everybody. I've seen the list of people who've donated. I'm truly touched. Wonderful messages as well, which I'll share with everyone. But that wasn't it. So the other element of the rally was the logistics of transporting donations and collections all the way to the final point, which is what Andy from Lex was in charge of. And again, that's not just to raise money, it's to raise awareness about the fact that £32 can buy somebody an advisor to help them find their next step forward once they can see the wood for the trees and moving away from a homelessness position. So 32 quid is not a lot for us, but it could be the absolute changing thing for somebody else. So yeah, really proud of Lex for the campaign. Really grateful to Chris Chandler for letting the EV Cafe get involved, and just once again completely in love with all of you who have donated. Thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts.
Absolutely. Jamie Fretwell covers it beautifully. Thursday was a long day, 6 a.m. to midnight, but the camaraderie and collaboration of the whole event was wonderful. You, my friend, are so right. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Right, let's crack on. New Prime Minister Keir Starmer has appointed Louise Haigh as Transport Secretary and Ed Miliband as Energy Secretary and the Net Zero Secretary as the Labour administration takes shape. Haigh will be in charge of a transport department with two immediate priorities on the electrification of vehicles and on nationalisation of the railways. It remains to be seen whether Haigh will move the date for banning the sale of internal combustion engine vehicles forward to 2030 as previously promised, after former Prime Minister, moved the date back to 2035. Meanwhile, Ed Miliband comes with a wealth of experience in energy and the environment, Environment and was Secretary of State when the original Climate Change Act was passed in 2008. His to-do list includes acceleration of the decarbonisation of the grid, including long-running issue of installing more renewable grid connections for solar, wind and other projects, and debates over onshore wind and how to ensure that the energy network can accommodate more than 30 million electric vehicles once road transport is fully decarbonised. Paul, I was surprised not to see Bill Esterson with a ministerial role, but this sounds like fighting talk from Labour.
I mean, I don't know whether it's fighting talk from Labour or not. I have very little knowledge of the people that are sort of going to go and start running our government now. I'm optimistic because of all the talk that's been in the lead up, and bloody hell, they better do it, because it's they've said about planning around energy. They've talked about bringing the 2030 ban back forward, bringing it back. But I think Jerry Keeney kind of touches on it very well. We've got to have specific interventions. We can't just kind of throw some money at it and hope it'll go away. We've got to be very, very targeted, specific around the used market, specific around the van and commercial vehicle world, to move things forward as they are, excuse the phrase, but dying on their bottom at the moment. And we are challenged in the market. So we need decisive action, clear action, and quick action. This needs to happen in the first 100 days.
Quite right, Sarah. What would you expect to see in the first 100 days?
Oh, I do like this. I really like this 100-day concept. Of course, it's fundamentally flawed, but it's just nice to see people's intention and will. And I met David Miliband quite some time ago when he was in charge of environment. So it's great to see similarities coming out, albeit 10 years later. But something that this has made me think about a lot is other countries are looking at us now with our new administration. They're going to want to see that decisive action happening. And it reminds me of a trip where I saw went over to Holland, and the dignitaries there laughed at us and essentially said, "You English, you plan, and then you do. We plan and do." And I was like, well, let's see if Labour can make that happen then. We've talked a long time. This list, I could write this list. This list is obvious. This is the obvious list of things that we need and want to improve our energy transition to zero emission vehicles. So let's get it done. It's not as simple as that, I appreciate, but I'll come back in 100 days and just see.
Ooh, fight and talk from Sarah. I love it. She's sparky today. Right, okay. Let's see who smashed in the doors. Yay!
It was me.
Right.
It was me.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't you. Right, okay. So, first through the door this morning, and I think his alarm clock's broken, was Graham McLaren Harris on YouTube at 9:20 and Dev Chakravarti on LinkedIn at 9:40. You both are mad, but bless you, love you, hug you and squeeze you. Teresa Swift, she was late to the table this morning at 9:55, but at least you came to the table and we love you for it. Gary Comerford, hello darling. He's appearing in something new, Can't say too much. Helen Mirren. Right, Craig Stark. Yes, good morning, sir. Ashley Bannister, lovely to see you last week. Liz Allen, always a love, and some great hugs, but you were tired at the end of the rally. Caroline Kirby, she has a lot to deal with, and a gold medal for her for just sticking with Paul. Amy, we've already mentioned you, Amy Carter, bless you. Holly Baldwin, one of the amazing EV Rally support crew who did all of the logistics and basically took everything on her shoulders. Absolute superstar. Well done, you. Sarah Clark from Europe Car always had a smile. Marvin Samuels. Marv, lovely to see you, mate. Do you have a matching laser ready to cut a super spy in half?
Yeah, it's such a great chair. Yeah, it's the chair that does it.
007 moment there for Sarah. Right, who else we got here? Ben McDonald, hello. Lloyd Allen, he's from Bristol but didn't mention it. Martin Sweeney, he was tardy. Bad boy. Kirsty Robinson from Stuart Signs. We're just designing some stuff for Carfest at the moment with Stuart Signs. Carfest, August 23rd to the 25th. You better be there. Kirsty Robinson, absolutely smashing out the park with some great stuff. Chris Demetriou. Yes, call Paul. If you want to be there at Carfest, call Paul. Good shout. Chris Demetriou from the London Borough of Islington. You are fabulous. Really well done to everyone who took part in the EV Rally. Fantastic achievement and really interesting to hear some of the challenges firsthand. You are darned right, mate. You should be on it. Dean Hedger. How lovely to see Dino. Greetings. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Let's. Okay. Electric vehicle drivers will have to pay London's £15 a day congestion charge, Transport for London has said. EVs, including cars and vans, will be subject to the same £15 a day fee that is currently being paid by other drivers from Christmas Day 2025. Electric vehicles currently pay a lower charge of just £10 a year to travel through congestion charge zone areas, including Westminster, Holborn, Farringdon, Marylebone and the City across the capital. Around 112,000 vehicles are currently registered for the Cleaner Vehicle Discount, previously known as the Ultra Low Emission Discount. So there's a lot of levelling up going on with vehicles in London. Sarah, does this please you? Does this upset you? Are you not really that bothered? It's just 15 quid.
I am a big fan, as you know, of the transport hierarchy, and I think this might trigger some better decisions for transportation, because congestion is still congestion, whether it's an electric car or not. I do wish it didn't include vans. I don't know if it definitely will or won't, but I think the biggest problem in all cities with congestion is single occupancy vehicles, just vehicles, doesn't matter if they're electric or not. And a city like London, which now does offer, and I love doing this, but what yet again got across the city faster on a Lime bike, which is a pedal assist bike, luggage capability, whatever, without touching any traffic. It was all cycle lane protected, no issue for me. Was faster than the cab that I got that said it would be 12 minutes, but it was 28 because of congestion. So, you know, I feel like this will spur on those who can to think about a different mode of travel.
Ben McDonald agrees with you. He says it needs to happen. The number of EVs in central London is mad now. Mad, I tell you. Now, Pablo, £15 a day for commercial vehicles. How does that sit with you?
Honestly, this once again makes me angry, as you can probably imagine. It is the blunt instrument where we just go, oh, we're going to change it because we want to change it for cars, but we're going to include vans because we don't think. And the reality is, people have to go into London, and the £15 a day has been a good incentive, which is now gone in a heartbeat for vans. That's £75 a week. That's £300 a month on a 4-week month. So it's actually about £320 a month. That's over nearly £4,000 a year. When they've possibly just bought that electric van in the last 12 months, are paying more for it for the next 3 or 4 years, and are now losing a benefit in a heartbeat for doing so. I understand the need around passenger vehicles and get those vehicles off the road. Totally get Sarah's point around public transport, individual occupancy, and all of that stuff. But it is thoughtless, mindless, and brainless to do it on vans without consideration for the way it will impact both the businesses and the market that it is aiming to serve, right? So it's
Yeah, the vans definitely bothers me. And Sam actually is here somewhere. He's on the chat. He said, Sarah, would people then get small vans just to avoid the fee? I don't know the answer to that, but it's a good point. I don't think they would really.
No.
And actually, I was just typing back.
Why would you go out and buy a van? Who wants
just to avoid 15?
Unless you've got a use for a van.
The flip side of this, from genuine research back, obviously lots of cities have had to make these decisions, and you can look up those decisions very easily. And a lot of the conversation is around choice, and even somebody that they'll just pay it, right? A certain element of people will just pay it. They don't want to use public transport. They don't want to use micromobility. So it's not going to solve all. And penalising vans again just feels so wrong. I just can't believe that that's the case.
I think Louise Haigh better sort her life out quite quickly. Otherwise, Paul is after her job.
Yeah, but it's not, though. It's the mayor.
Indeed,
Sadiq. It's not a government decision. This is a local decision.
Yeah, but they're in the same team, mate. You know, there's got to be a little bit of influence that can be brought to bear at a national level to influence Sadiq Khan, surely.
Well, you might think so, but Anyway, I think we need a word into the mayor's office before this kicks in.
Okay, if you could have that done by 10:30, mate, that'd be really helpful.
Sure,
thank you.
Sorted.
Good lad. Right, a new report shows direct carbon emissions from vehicle factories in the UK halved over the past 25 years. The 25th Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders Sustainability Report, published on Tuesday, shows the amount of CO2 directly emitted in vehicle production fell by 54% compared with 1999 levels. At the same time, the amount of energy and water used per vehicle was cut by 18% and 17.7% respectively last year, and usage is now 33 and 42% below 1999 levels. UK manufacturers are also helping cut on-road emissions with record volumes of electric vehicles leaving factory lines in 2023 as output rose by almost half. Do you know what? That's phenomenal, Sarah, isn't it? You know, we sometimes lose sight of what we've achieved because it's what we feel is incremental changes over time. But when you stop and think about it, that's huge.
Yeah, I was still ranting about vans, so I wasn't entirely listening to the story. I'm so sorry. Go to Paul next. Sorry.
Paul.
I was the same listening to.
Oh well,
this
there you
anyway.
go. That's naughty, isn't it? We're very naughty. Everyone to the back of the
Okay. Well, let's on that basis then. Let's shelve that one story because it's great that the automotive sector has massively reduced its emissions and energy use and water use. Brilliant, great news. Back to vans. What's exercising you so much?
Well, Sam makes a good point, and that's one of the things I was looking at was £320 just to avoid the fee. That's a whole vehicle lease. And I replied, well, that's a good point. I miss my van. I might get one instead of my Tesla. I'm not going to do that. But it was just distracted me. And Dev as well made a really good point. So, yeah.
If you could get a van, Sarah, which one would you get?
Well, I used to have the Berlingo. Citroen Berlingo is so cool. Anything that you can get bikes in and be able to camp in is the one.
I've got to say, I really love the E-Daily. I sort of fell in love with that thing whilst we were away. And
It's
the
massive,
fact
though.
It is enormous. You could live in there quite happily. In fact, there are days when I feel like I should. Paul, what about you?
In terms of, oh gosh, it's a really difficult one because I've got so many different hats to wear in the van world. But
Indeed.
I've always been impressed with the Iveco E-Daily. I wouldn't want to own one. Teresa Swift in the chat has just mentioned the ID Buzz. If you were owning one, might that be one? It could be. I actually have a Toyota Pro Ace, which I bought to sell because as a used vehicle, it's incredibly cheap, but it does exactly what it says it does on the tin. Starts when I need it to, and it's got a load of space in the back. That's good news. And of course, the new Canoe coming to market. If once that gets here, that's going to be pretty amazing and pretty funky. That might be one to own as well. But
Paul, what was Webfleet driving? What was Richard Parker at Webfleet driving?
That was the Toyota Pro Ace City. It was the smaller version.
Performed very, very well. We did this
got.
funny skit where we threw sandbags into the back of it, and it was just really fun to see it. And they were worried about it, and they travelled loaded to make a point. And it was still very, very good performance. So maybe that one.
They had half a ton of load on and still got to each checkpoint pretty much first. They were the most incredible. I think it had a range of about 120 miles. And because of the way that Richard drove it with Stephen, amazing, absolutely amazing. Paul, your Pro Ace, what sort of money are you looking at for a used van these days?
So if you were to put it up in a retail world, you're talking, so this is a just over 2-year-old van. List price circa 40 something thousand at the minute. You could buy that for 16,500 probably. And if you went to the auction, of course, you buy it even less because that's with a margin on it. So the electric van world at the moment is struggling with residual value, and it's why the targeted approach to the earlier points that we made about government and how they might react is really critical. The used market is something that needs a bit of focus on. But Sam Clark is, whilst he's not with us, he is creating mischief in the chat. Cargo cycles cause congestion. Tax them too. Well, Sam, given the opportunity to respond, what a lot of cobblers, as usual, don't know the cargo cycle world. Ha ha ha. Bye.
Fleets.
Brutal.
He is brutal. But let's move on before there's a fight. Fleets are being invited to take part in a trial of new next generation vehicle to grid EV workplace charging technology. V2G technology enables EVs to be charged at times when electricity costs are low and then put energy back into the grid or into a building or even another EV. And we saw this on the EV rally. Vehicle to load. So Sam had his Zero motorcycle, which was being powered by a Kia EV6, amongst other things. And it was utterly brilliant to see it in the car park at night, parked up and connected by a wire to a car. Utterly superb, and Sam did the whole thing on his motorbike and still appeared reasonably human at the end of it. I bet he stank to high heaven, mind. Sarah,
what a legend.
any insight?
Absolutely not. We're a team, remember? So no, absolutely not. However, vehicle to load, great concept. Every morning arriving back to 100% charged vehicle and sort of taking such a small proportion off the larger car for the smaller vehicle meant that it wasn't that much skin off the vehicle's nose, the car's nose, to go and replace that charge lost. So that's brilliant. Now, this trial's been coming a long time. So obviously the panacea is that you've got a row of vehicles that can do vehicle to grid and they're all parked up overnight at your depot, and you can benefit from that. And of course, the capital investment for the bi-directional charger that will be required just makes little tiny power hubs. Those commercial buildings or wherever they're parked become power hubs, and it's just been a fascinating technological advancement over the last 10 years. I just want to go and see it.
Yeah, trial participants will be provided a free V2G EV charger, which they can keep after the project, and it's all run by Drive Electric and Crowd Charge, which helps unlock the value from the technology. It's got to be the way forward, Paul. V2G, V2L.
I love this, and I mean, you know, what the challenge is at the market at the moment is that not enough vehicles do it. I mean, most vehicles are capable of being able to do it, but it is the technology being opened up for use. I think it's really important, and it really changes the way that businesses can think about commercializing their fleet and make it like a money generating thing. Vans that are on the market, you know, what we're hearing from Canoe is they're coming with this as standard bi-directional charging, which is going to be the first one that comes as standard. But I'm pretty certain when you look at what Iveco are doing and a number of others in the market, they'll be quick to respond, I think. But we need the protagonists in the market to say this is standard. With this, we're not going to try and kind of monetize this. Let's make it democratized, I guess, is the phrase. And the guys at 3TI and Tim Evans, bless him, was a man that really was passionate about making this free and easy to access for everybody. And so it's great to see that 3TI are involved in those trials as well.
And Chris Demetrio adds a little bit when he says, we're massively excited here in Islington about 2 upcoming separate V2D trials, 2 vehicles with e-refuse collection vehicles and 2 passenger cars. It is the future. And hang on, we've got some breaking news here. Marvin Samuel says, Sam smelt fine to me in Chester. Okay. Restraining order is in the post. Sarah Sloman says, I helped to dry out the kit while Sam got a well-deserved meal and a beer, and that wasn't the most pleasant experience. And Sam ridiculously claims he probably showered more than I did. Yeah, dream on, my friend. Right. Final story. NASCAR unveiled its first electric race car on Saturday in Chicago, and it doesn't thunder when the Grand Marshal says, drivers, start your engines. It hums a bit like Sam. Now then, we've got a picture of this. We got a picture of this NASCAR. There you go. So ABB sponsored, and that is a thing of lush. Now, the top motorsports series in North America partnered with Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota, and ABB to demonstrate a high-performance electric vehicle and gauge fan interest in electric racing. Unlike typical sports coupes, the new car is actually a crossover utility vehicle. A huge wing on the back makes it aerodynamic enough to be a race car. It accelerates almost twice as fast as top gas-powered race cars and can stop almost immediately. But its lap time at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia was 0.2 of a second slower because it takes the corners slower due to being heavier. Interesting. Semi-retired NASCAR driver David Reagan said it may go even faster. He wasn't pushing the one-of-a-kind vehicle to its limits. Risk-taking is for racing, not testing. Well, look at that. that. But what's really interesting is you've got massive petrol head world, and you've got them saying, oh, hang on a second, is there something in this EV thing? And Carfest that I mentioned earlier, Paul, that's where we're going to show all them petrol heads that maybe they're missing a trick.
Yeah, and what's exciting about Carfest is that electric vehicles will feature in their track demos as well. So we're going to see that. And you know, I remember turning up at the home of petrol hedonism, which was a hotel in Sharnbrook in Bedfordshire, and there was a Bentley Turbo drag racer, because we're right by Santapod, there. And I said, oh, we've got this electric vehicle. And he said, oh, bloody hell, I used to be beaten off the line by a G-Whiz by Johnny Smith that used to run a G-Whiz electric vehicle, and he would beat him off the line in his Bentley Turbo every time. Obviously, they'd catch him up after a few yards. But it's really great that, you know, the excitement of electric mobility and the immediate power and performance of those vehicles is now coming to light and being seen. And NASCAR is a great way of doing that.
And we could be accused of being complete evangelists, but the reality is that sales have slowed down, Sarah, for EVs. And actually now's the time where we've all got to dig in a bit and continue to challenge myths and to help people to understand the reality, the good, the bad, and the ugly of transitioning to EV.
And this is where people fall in love with these vehicles. They watch these performances and they think that's so cool. This is where the equipment is tested and it trickles down to what you end up buying. And never underestimate the power of pester power. If you watch this as a family and the kids are like, hey guys, that's so cool, why can't we have a car like that? Then the parents go, oh, yes, we could. What do you think? You know, we've got time. We do have a bit of time. And now is the time that we start to put those thoughts into the buyer's minds through cool, innovative stuff like this.
Absolutely. Now then, there's been a little... Go on, Paul.
I was just going to add. So CarWow have now added electric vehicles to their drag racing stuff, and you know they always do those things. And we've seen the Rivian on there. We've seen the Tesla S Plaid racing against Formula One cars and other stuff. And yeah, okay, the Formula One cars are winning out, but it is incredible to see that electric vehicles can absolutely do that quarter mile in a time that just is mind blowing.
Well, there's a challenge for you, Paul. Liz Allen says, can we get Tiff Nadell to join the EV Cafe Village at Carfest, as we need to convince him the positivity of EVs? Hell might freeze over first, I think. But there we are. It's worth a try.
Maybe.
Yeah. If anybody can kick a door in, it's Mr. Kirby. Right,
well,
I think. No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I've worked for a dealer group that is that do work with him, so I can probably get to him. But anyway, we'll see.
There's a challenge. Watch this space. We'll bring you any news on that front if we get it. If you've got any clean transport, PR or news stories you'd like us to cover, please send them to us at hello@evcafe.org. Until next Friday, it's goodbye from me, Stinky. It's goodbye from them. This has been an EV Cafe production brought to you this week in partnership with Paythrough, transforming the EV charging experience with tailored payment solutions. Other sustainability news services are available, but this is just funner!
Sorry, everyone.
The EV Cafe is truly blessed to be partnered with the AA, Webfleet, Europcar, Paythrough, Iveco, Zaptec, Drax, Sperry, Stuart Sides Hydrock, All-Star, Schneider Electric and Dynamon. We are the EV Cafe, supporting the transition to zero-emission transport. Enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend, wherever it electrically takes you. Until next Friday, bye-bye!
Bye-bye!
I love how
so much fun.
I love how Sam still didn't say